Good afternoon, everyone. I didn't introduce myself. My name is Obo Geoffrey. Briefly, I'm a lawyer and an advocate, and I'm currently a research fellow at the Human Rights and Peace Center. And today I'll be taking part in moderating this dialogue and talk that we have on the Anti-Homosexuality Bill of 2023 that was passed by Parliament yesterday in the night. Yeah, we shall be discussing whether the bill is about protecting the public or it's oppressing the minorities. As you've been seeing all the flyers going around, we shall have two panelists that we shall introduce later on. But briefly, this has been hosted by the Human Rights and Peace Center at the Makerere School of Law. So it is right that I would invite the Acting Director of the Human Rights and Peace Center, HRAPF, Dr. Usinje Kavumba, who will in turn invite the principal for the School of Law. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Geoffrey. Good afternoon, everyone. Honorable Asuman Basalirwa, Dr. Adrian Jjuuko, Dr. Zahara Nampeo, all of you here with us today, all protocol observed. It gives me great pleasure to welcome you to this dialogue convened by the Human Rights and Peace Center of the School of Law, Makerere University. It's especially interesting for me because this year, 2023, HRAPF celebrates 30 years of impactful existence. There have been 30 critical years in which our voice has been felt and heard on the most critical issues in this country, including, incidentally, the founding of the 1995 Constitution. And incidentally, also one of our first directors, Honorable Professor Kidu Makubuya, served, as you're aware, both in the CA constitution-making process, but also eventually in the Ministry of Justice. So we are celebrating HRAPF at 30, and it's not just an annual or one-year celebration, but I'm going to use the next 10 years to introspect and think about our agenda for the next 30 years. HRAPF has three main pillars, which make it unique in terms of its voice and its space in Uganda. One is research. The second is teaching. And the third is this, the public face, community engagement, outreach. It's these three things that really make us a unique institution, not just in this university, but in Uganda and beyond. This dialogue, and I use that word deliberately, not even a debate, but a dialogue, is also personally interesting for me because in 2009, I was doing the role Geoffrey is doing now, moderating a debate on the anti-homosexuality bill then that had been introduced by Honorable David Bahati. At the time, I was an assistant lecturer. 14 years down the road, I have the burden and the pleasure of steering HRAPF. So it's 14 years, almost a sense of deja vu. We have been here, we're back here, we're older, hopefully we're wiser, but in a sense, the wheels are turning, but we're back here nevertheless. And the dialogue today is about an extremely contentious bill. But I think we can discuss sensitive and contentious things. We can disagree without being disagreeable. We can dissent while being respectful. And indeed, this was the spirit of our engagement with the Legal and Parliamentary Affairs Committee last week. By and large, apart from one notable exception in my case, whom I won't mention, by and large, the committee members were respectful. And I think, for me, this is the spirit of our dialogue today. Those are the rules of the game. Those are the rules of the engagement today. Respect, dialogue. I'll end. I know the panelists are going to be introduced formally by the moderators. I don't know why, Praise, you haven't taken your rightful seat. I know the panelists are going to be introduced by the moderators, but let me just give one sentence or two about what I know of these panelists, or let me say how I know them. Adrian Jjuuko is a long-standing friend of mine. We were, I think, students here, separated by a few years, and I've seen his activism. I've seen the formation of the Human Rights and Awareness Promotion Forum from its inception. I can testify to his bona fides, to his passion for the work that he does for human rights in Uganda, and we're privileged to have you here, Adrian. Thank you for sparing your time. I also know Honorable Asuman from way back, although I know he has forgotten. I first met Honorable Basalirwa in 2001. It was at the wake of my late brother, Lukundo Kabumba. The vigil. At the time, I was about to come to law school. I was in vacation, waiting to come to law school. I just lost my elder brother, who was in third year in School of Law. He was a mature student doing law as his second degree. He passed away. And Honorable Basalirwa took off time. He was then the guild president at Makerere University. He took off time to come and condole with us, my parents, myself, on the loss of my brother, who had been his friend and colleague, I think Lumumba, I'm not sure. I was touched by his empathy and the fact that His Excellency, the President, had come. Who are we? His Excellency, the President, had come down to see us. And I remember that very keenly. So here, today, we are human beings. We are Ugandans, we're Africans, we're relating, we're having a discussion with each other as friends in the spirit of dialogue. We all know about loss, we know about life, we know about death, we know about humanity. And this is the spirit of a dialogue. Without further ado, I'd like to invite my immediate predecessor at HRAPF, but also currently the Deputy Principal of the School of Law, Makerere University, Dr. Zahar Nampeo, to officially open this dialogue, and we proceed from there. You're very welcome, Dr. Zahar.
Thank you very much. Dr. Kabumba, Businje, it gives me pleasure, and it should give a lot of people pleasure when you hand over the reins to someone you know is just as capable of doing the job you did before, or even better. Good afternoon. Honorable Asuman Basalirwa, Member of Parliament, Dr. Adrian Jjuuko, panelist, Director, HRAPF, Dr. Businje Kabumba, my colleagues from the School of Law here present, members from civil society, ladies and gentlemen, in your distinguished capacities, our dear students, good afternoon once again. Welcome to the School of Law, Makerere University, the premier and leading law school in Uganda. The only law school in Uganda right now that can have a dialogue of this nature. And that means that we are really still in the lead for many years, because we are able to take balanced and bold decisions to talk about difficult conversations that may not be possible for others. Makerere University does this because we are a key partner. We have assembled a team to come and discuss the AHA, which, as you heard, was passed last night. We are a key partner of the government of Uganda, being a public university. And that gives us a role to play in maintaining and advising the government on key issues. As we celebrated Mark at 100 last year, when we made 100 years, one of the things that we aim to do is to target our alumni. We have alumni across the world, and it gives me pleasure today that our two key panelists are Adrian, year of 2004, and Honorable Asuman, year of 1998. I think that says a lot about the School of Law, that even the people who are involved in the decisions that matter in this country are still coming from Makerere University. The role of the School of Law is to produce socially conscientized law graduates, graduates that are sensitive to social justice issues in the 21st century. Our purpose and mandate is to produce graduates that are not just well educated in the letter of the law, but advocates that inquire, that have an inquiring and critical mind. And that is the role, that is the purpose of our dialogue today. Because, of course, for us, the agenda is about law. Law encompasses every individual from birth to death. The moment we are born, the law comes in. Is it a boy? Is it a girl? This has to happen. Give them a name, registration, you know? So law is closely related with life. And in fact, law is the basis of society, and more so an organized society, because the law seeks to regulate life. So in any processes involving the law, the School of Law at Makerere University takes a very key role and interest, and we see the need to be involved. We acknowledge that, of course, the law is not static. It cannot remain unchanged, because life experiences, all the things that we do on a day-to-day basis, even by providing education here, the dialogue here is a legal issue. So law by its nature is dynamic, and the experiences that we go through justify the need for the law to be equivalent in the way that it responds to these experiences. So for us as Makerere Law School, we cannot and we shall not keep indifferent or ignore the developments in the law, because as academics, we have a role to play to ensure that the laws that are being passed, we have advised on issues of legality. We have ensured that these laws pass the test on rule of law, that they observe the principles of human rights. And I'm sure you know that as academics, we have made our input into this process. As the Human Rights and Peace Center, we made a presentation to the Committee on Parliament over how we felt this bill was, as well as other colleagues from the academic sphere. And we have raised our voices of concern over issues such as the blatant violation of rights such as the presumption of innocence, the right to a fair trial, non-derogable right to a fair trial, the implications, the far-reaching implications of this law that was passed last night. Because we know that human rights are the core of stability and development of a country, and as we see ourselves as a partner of the government of Uganda, we see the need to be involved. There are laws that have been on the plate, on the agenda of Parliament for the longest time. We've been calling for laws to protect children against child abuse. We've been calling for the marriage bill. Why now that all of a sudden in a month, a law has been passed? We want these conversations to come out in order to guide society. So we feel that it is our place to contribute to the discourse this afternoon, because it affects the development and the stability of our society and the legal domain. I won't say much. Thank you very much, HRAPF, for organizing this. And thank you very much, our dear panelists, for accepting to be part of this conversation. I wish you very happy, fruitful deliberations, and I declare this dialogue open.
Thank you very much, Doctor. Since the dialogue is open and it's not my day to give my views, we shall proceed to start. I'll just give a brief of how we shall proceed, and then I'll introduce the panelists. Then my co-moderator will take over through the part of the dialogue with the panelists. She will introduce herself. Our dialogue will proceed in this way. We shall give each of our panelists at least 15 minutes each to give opening remarks and opening statements on questions that we may have on this bill. Then after that, maybe we shall also open to the audience. We intend also the audience to have some questions, at least if we can have enough time for the audience. The moderators will be also regulating this, and also the people online can participate on Zoom. I understand also a link has been shared on YouTube that you can also follow live. So briefly, our panelists for today, I will start with Dr. Adrian Jjuuko. I'll just give a brief introduction of the panelists. I'm not saying this is their exhaustive description of what they have accomplished or the portfolio that they stand on. Yeah, Dr. Adrian Jjuuko is the Executive Director of the Human Rights Awareness and Promotion Forum, that many of you know as HRAPF. He's an advocate of the High Court of Uganda with more than 15 years experience, and also a prominent public interest litigator who is well known for promoting human rights, especially when it comes for sexual minorities, for sex workers, and also for persons living with HIV/AIDS. He has taken part in several public interest litigation cases in these areas, especially the most recent that has been declared by the Constitutional Court, declaring the offense of being rogue and vagabond as being unconstitutional. And also he took part in the case which challenged the previous Anti-Homosexuality Act in 2013 that was nullified by the Constitutional Court at that time. That he will be our panelist, and our second panelist will be Honorable Asuman Basalirwa, who is a member of Parliament representing Bugiri Municipality and also president of the Justice Forum that we all know as JEMA. He is also a human rights advocate, I know, with more than 15 years experience. And he has also taken part in several landmark cases that promote human rights, especially civil and political rights. He has taken part in prominent cases like the election petition of Right Honorable Amama Mbabazi, the former Prime Minister versus Attorney General Yoweri Museveni, and in several other previous election petitions and other cases that promote civil and political rights in the High Court and in the Constitutional Court and even the Supreme Court. Most recently, he's become very prominent for tabling the Anti-Homosexuality Bill 2023, which was passed last night. Yes. Please welcome the two panelists. Right. Yes, thank you. At this moment, I think we can open up. Yes.
Thank you very much, Geoffrey, for that. My name is Aloikin Praise Opoloje. I am a law student here at Makerere University. I am a human rights advocate and currently I'm interning with HRAPF. I also find it, I don't know, it's very privileging to be, in frontier, sitting with a great woman and great men. It's humbling. I want to appreciate all of us who have spared our time and come here to tackle the issue that we have on table today, the anti-homosexuality bill that was just passed yesterday. And the theme that we are going to be following today is this bill protecting the public or it's oppressing the minorities? Yesterday on Twitter, on some of your WhatsApp statuses, those were my friends, I felt like this topic is really heated. I got the chance to listen to the parliamentary sitting yesterday before the bill was passed, and I could see how contentious this issue is in our country, at a national level, at a regional level, and even at a global level. So moderating such a contentious issue, I'm really excited. Anyway, before we go any further, I am not going to do a lot of the speaking today. I am just the moderator. And like Geoffrey said, we are going to move on to having opening statements from our panelists. And in their opening statements, we expect our panelists to answer 3 questions. 1, why are we having this bill creating such contention in Parliament now? Not yesterday, not 13 years ago when it was just, after the Oloka Onyango case, where they closed it and said, we are not moving forward with this anymore. Why now? Why at this time? But also, in the first place, why criminalize it? And if one of them disagrees or agrees with that, they can later give us their stand on whether they do or not. On that note, let's welcome Honorable Asuman Basalirwa to answer those 3 questions before we even plunge into the debate that we have today. Thank you.
Thank you very much. For all intents and purposes, allow me to refer to you as my daughter. Yeah, because she's my daughter's age. Director of HRAPF, my good friend Adrian, doctor, colleagues from the Law Society, the media, the academia. First of all, each time I am here, it's really a feeling of nostalgia because this is home. This place where you are now, when it was newly constructed, we were the first people to study from here. This place here. So I am glad that I am back to my my faculty. I am back to my university, where I have many records and honors here. These ones were able to mention a few, but because they don't know, they are still young. But if you ask Professor Jjuuko, Professor Oloka Onyango, Professor Sylvia Tamale, they will tell you about Basalirwa. There's no doubt about it. So I'm glad that I am back home. After many years, I have not been to this place, I think, over 7 years. And I am glad that what we left here is what Dr. Kabumba and others are trying to bring up. We've been asking, where is Makerere? Specifically, where is Law Society? Because during our time, I don't recall any one time that there would be matters of national importance and there is no debate here. I don't recall. Either at the level of Students' Guild on 17th of April
2000, I was voted as guild president here. We used to have debates every after 2 weeks, and we would engage dialogues, even law society. But along the way, the country has been depoliticized, de-intellectualized, deculturalized, Kabumba, we have hope in you. We have hope in you. Make sure the School of Law at Makerere gets back to its course and position. I thought I would begin from that premise so that we understand each other. And I do so deliberately because sometimes people think MPs didn't go to school. You find the media attacking us, and we started with these guys, and we were better than them, by the way. But they are there attacking us, saying all sorts of things. So I thought I would begin from that premise. I am not a doctor like my brother. My highest level of education is a master's in law from here. I don't think I have time to go beyond that. Let the Kabumbas and the others who want to be professors do that. I will not take that path. Now, I have asked Dr. Kabumba to allow me make comments because I am bringing another bill called the Legal Aid Bill. It is on the floor today at 2 o'clock. And I'm saying so because we have a problem with some of the people who control narratives. Basalirwa, so far in Parliament, I have brought 5 bills. It is only this one that Makerere has invited me to talk about it. Only this one. And Adrian knows. Recently, I brought the law revision miscellaneous amendment bill that scraped from the law books, Section 50 of the Penal Code, Section 8 of the Public Order Management Act, and the others. Nobody talks about it. And these are human rights clauses I'm talking about. We're not talking about potato growing. Nobody is talking about it. And Parliament passed it the other day. Mutatis mutandis, as you say. I brought the sports bill with the Honorable Magogo. And the government took it over. I have brought the anti-homosexuality bill, which was passed yesterday at night. Again, another misnomer. This person who is emphasizing at night, is he aware of the rules of procedure of Parliament? Because you see, you must be very careful. When you are in law school, you must be very careful not to exhibit ignorance in public. You must be very careful. You are emphasizing at night, at night, at night. What are the sitting times of Parliament? What are they? I have been in that Parliament. I was in the 10th Parliament. I will tell you, I don't know how many times I have been in that Parliament. The sugar bill. We left that place at 9. I remember the sugar bill. We left at 9. I don't know whether he's aware or not. So these pedestrian arguments that we make, with due respect, I want them to stop. It's very important. No. I am very serious on this issue. I am not going to come to a school of law where people are making like a disco statements. I am not going to accept. So I wanted to begin from that premise by correcting impressions, because it's very important. Otherwise, somebody might think he's making a stronger point. So, is this the first law to be passed at that time? Will it be the last? No. So I thought I would make that very clear. Then I go to the questions being asked. Why now? Isn't it? Wasn't it the first question? Why not now? Do we have time frames when we bring the law? But for information purposes, I wrote to the Speaker seeking for leave to bring the anti-homosexuality law in August last year. I also want to put that on record. It is only the other day that the speaker granted me space on the order paper. I don't control the order paper. So I think I have answered that. But also, fundamentally, when you speak to the MPs across, they will tell you there's a problem in the country. A very big problem. And I've interacted with many parents, I've been to many schools. The issue of recruitment, promotion, financing, and the like. The other day, when these people were in parliament, I did say, you don't provoke a community. If these people perhaps were eating their things quietly, nobody would be bothered. Maybe nobody would be bothered. But you see, you are going in our schools, you are attacking our children, you are recruiting, and you want us to look on. That is not going to happen, and it doesn't happen anywhere. It will not happen, and it does not happen anywhere. That we look at you destroying our children, doing recruitment, this is financing, and you see, you want us to look on, because you see, we are all lawyers, and we have all gone to school. Where does this happen? I and these people here, we have studied from universities both here and abroad. You know, that's what many Ugandans like to hear. I was in London. I didn't go to London. I was in Pretoria, not very far. I don't know where Dr. went and the others. So, the question why now is that there is also public outcry. That public outcry, I did avail the evidence in the committee. And I know this is not the last time we are engaging with this. I'll come and share it here. The day they appeared in the committee, you heard what Owundo said, the ex-gay, he calls himself ex-gay what? Elisha and the others. What happened? So, over and above the fact that I was given space that time, there is also the argument that the public outcry at the moment is at the peak. So I think I have resolved that. The other issue was what? I'm sorry, the other question. Yes, why the particular stance to criminalize it? Again, is this new? Is it new? Because criminalization of homosexuality is not a new phenomenon. As a matter of fact, there is nothing new we are talking about. It is the colonialists who first introduced here a law on homosexuality. Section 145 of the Penal Code Act. It's a colonial law. When we inherited, when we attained independence in 1962, some of the laws that we inherited include that. But we are saying there are circumstances and situations that change. And because by nature law is dynamic, Dr. Kabumba and Dr. Adrian Jjuuko are more conversant with that aspect of jurisprudence than myself. I don't want to claim to be an authority in that area. No. Now, why criminalize? So because it is not new, and I'll be having these arguments, even in the developed world. Let's look at, for example, the United States, that you like quoting and where you like to go. Yeah, everybody, that's where they want to go. They will not tell you, but for a fact, almost every year, different states are bringing up anti-homosexuality pieces of legislation. only being frustrated at the level of the federal government. Do research. The different states in America. So, why criminalize? But this is intended to be a penal law. So you want to create a penal law that does not criminalize? It doesn't, definitely. I know of no penal law that does not criminalize. If you know it, let me learn it today. But I know of none. So I thought that should also be placed in context. There is nothing new that we are discussing, and I think it must be understood from that context. Obviously, there are many arguments, human rights arguments. Yes, I am a human rights lawyer. And you are not going to take it away from me. Because I have argued human rights cases up to the level of Supreme Court. I have defended the downtrodden in this country. There is no provision on human rights that I have not advocated for before the courts. It is not there. I have been a political prisoner. Museveni arrested me and put me in prison. Over human rights, by the way. Because some are human rights activists, they don't know the other side of it. We have faced that side. I have been a political prisoner. I don't only end at the microphone. I have been to jail for fighting for the rights of you and others. So we have these human rights arguments around. You know, the right to equality, freedom from discrimination, isn't it? These are going around. Let's subject them to some academic arguments. Right to equality. Equality, homosexuals should have same rights like heterosexuals, not so? Isn't it? Let's look at the Ugandan context. That debate was sealed the moment the Constitution enacted Article 31. That debate was sealed. Number two, I know of no international human rights instrument that Uganda has ratified. That promotes sexual orientation. I know of none. Because even the International Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, look at Article 2. Because we are signatory to that convention. Look at Article 2 of that convention. We are signatory to it. We ratified it, even the optional protocols have been ratified. And under the law of treaties, there's what we call Pacta Santa Servanda. Have you taught them that? Huh? Yes. Pacta Santa Servanda, a very fundamental principle in the law of treaties. Look at what Article 2 says. Non-discrimination on the basis of race, color, and sex. There is no sex orientation. Because the two are different. I hope we know it. The two are different. And we are signatory to that. So, there is no international human rights instrument that I know of, because I'm also here to learn. You'll educate me. Even you there, you'll educate me. But there is no international human rights instrument that Uganda is a party where there is sexual orientation as a right. It is not there. I want to submit, Mr. Speaker, Madam Speaker. Then, let me, is my time up? 3 more minutes. Now, look at discrimination. Look at Article 21 of our Constitution. Article 21 of our Constitution has listed the grounds. And the Supreme Court, in the case of Madrama, whose details will be given by the professors, the academicians, because they are very good at citing cases for academic purposes, Justice Madrama went to court because he was arguing that he's being discriminated against on account of age. Up to the level of Supreme Court said no, age. So the grounds for discrimination under our Constitution have been exhausted in Article 21. There is no sexual orientation. It is not there. There is sex, but no sexual orientation. Article 21, you read it. But even if it was there, for argument's sake, is it non-derogable? Under Article 44 and 43, is it? Even if it was there, and I want to argue it is not there, but for academic purposes, let us say it is there. Is it non-derogable? Would it be among the non-derogable rights? Now I need an answer. Even if it was there, as we want to argue, would it be non-derogable? Under Article 43 and 44, I submit that it would be not. Therefore, in terms of arguing your law and your human rights, as you want to call it, that is what I can say. I am not going to discuss the politics because this is not a political forum. But obviously, as Dr. Kabumba knows, for me, I deal with you the way you come. Yeah, because we've been around for some time. You come as an academician, I deal with you as an academician. You come as a politician, I deal with you as a what? As a politician, because I am blessed with both. Fortunately, let me recognize the presence of my lecturer, Dr. Shokoro. Where I am making submissions that are not up to date, he takes part of the blame. He taught me contract law here. He taught me health and the law. And I think he's proud of me. Aren't you, doctor? So, colleagues, I want to thank you for your time. I look forward to a fruitful discussion for God and my country.
Thank you very much for that, Honorable. I think he deserves another round of applause. Yes, so why not now is something that I find really outstanding from Honorable Asuman's speech. As we welcome Dr. Jjuuko Adrian to give us his opening statement, these will be the three major questions that we have for him. In the introduction of Dr. Jjuuko by Geoffrey, we learned that he's a human rights activist. One question that you're going to answer for us is a human right created by the law, or it's inherent as one is a human being? And in line with the anti-homosexuality bill, still, do you think it's right to criminalize the act of homosexuality in this country? Those will be your two questions before we move into the debate. Thank you.
Thank you so much, moderator. Good afternoon. How are you doing? Honorable Basalirwa, thank you for being here and for defending what you believe in to the end. We waited for you patiently, and I'm glad you finally made it. There must have been very pressing state duties. Dr. Kabumba, Professor Twino Mugisha, Professor Nakai, Dr. Nakai, Dr. Don Rukare, and everyone here, welcome and thank you for coming to our debate. I come from civil society, but also I come from academia. But this time around, I'm going to put on the hat of civil society more than academia, because I can't keep calm in light of what happened yesterday. So I wish I was an disinterested person discussing this from a position of a lawyer or an academic, but I'm not. I'm directly affected by the provisions that Honorable Basalirwa passed yesterday and his colleagues. As they were celebrating after passing this law, I switched the TV off because I couldn't watch that. Because in my view, they were gloating and jumping on the graves of LGBTI persons and trampling on the work of people like me that we've done for years. And that was not decent for them to do. So I run an organization that has been listed as a promoter of homosexuality. And what do? I do exactly what I'm doing right now. This is promotion of homosexuality as defined by Honorable Basalirwa and colleagues. Speaking against laws like this, challenging them in courts of law, giving legal aid to LGBT persons is promotion of homosexuality. And I'm listed on a list of 22, and I'm sure the NGO Bureau is just waiting for when this law becomes law and they close us down. For this, young lawyers who are studying and upcoming lawyers, just know that the legal profession is now limited. There are things you cannot do as a lawyer. Just like my colleague Mukuve, my classmate Mukuve argued one day. He told me there are things you can't do as a lawyer. You cannot protect the rights of LGBTI people. So what happened yesterday in Parliament was a mockery of the legislative process, an abuse of the Constitution, and an abuse of power. For starters, Parliament does not have the powers under the Constitution to pass any law that they want, more especially not to pass a law that's in violation of the Constitution. Article 79(1 is going to quote it for you. He would love to quote that. But whenever they quote it, they forget the first parts of that article. And they say the Constitution allows us power to pass any law for the good governance of Uganda. It doesn't. It says, subject to this Constitution, Parliament can pass any law. Subject, meaning the Constitution has provisions beyond which you cannot actually legislate. One of those are the provisions concerning the Bill of Rights under Chapter 4 of the Constitution, because the Bill of Rights largely trumps many of the other constitutional provisions. So by passing a law that's blatantly unconstitutional, you are going against the Constitution if the law violates human rights principles and provisions. Now, the question of why now? The question of why now is easier to answer. There's no now in reality. This is a campaign that has been ongoing for years and years and years. And it's not just a Ugandan campaign. This is an international campaign. It didn't start here. He told you, Honorable Basalirwa, that this law was introduced in Uganda by the colonialists, and that's true. But the colonialists, unfortunately, also had their law on homosexuality introduced just before they colonized us in 1885. When did they come? 1894 is when they did formally, yes. But in 1885, they passed their Criminal Law Amendment in Britain. And the Criminal Law Amendment Act was basically in response to a moral panic about, guess, protecting our children. So this is not new. We've been protecting our children for hundreds of years in England, in the UK, in England, in the US, and every other place. In the 1870s, there was a lady, she was an actress. She was called Anita Brandt in Miami-Dade County in the US, who basically had this point of we are protecting our children, and people bought in it. But basically, it's a lie, as I put Honorable Basalirwa to task, to tell me how many children have been recruited into homosexuality in the recent past, and where his evidence is, because he claims recruitment. So, the British introduced their law. The British made their criminal amendment in 1885, and then they brought us our order in council in 1902. You remember the order in council in 1902? Via the 1889 Africa Order in Council. And then in 1907, the Applied Indian Ordinance was passed, where we applied Indian laws, the famous Section 377 of India. And in 1930, Uganda got its first penal code from Queensland, Australia. That's the version we used here. And that's when unnatural offenses were criminalized. 1950, our penal code became our penal code. In 1962, we really owned it now, our penal code. In 1990, we increased the punishment for homosexuality from 10 years imprisonment to life imprisonment, which is the current provision in the penal code. And in 2014, we basically passed the Homosexuality Act. And now we are passing it again because it was nullified in 2014. So this is not new. They have been at this game forever. Russia has been promoting what they call the traditional values at the UN. They have been moving resolutions to that and calling upon other countries, including African countries, to join this fray. This is not just a Honorable Basalirwa. He's as much a pawn as I am in this struggle. Defilement. So now we're on fire. Uganda has caught fire. Uganda has caught fire because we are recruiting children to homosexuality. Every single day in this nation, we recruit so many children to homosexuality. Let me get you the records. The police crime report for 2022 says that in the year 2022, there were 83 cases of unnatural offenses in Uganda. I repeat, 83. Now, unnatural offenses means consensual and non-consensual. And I can assure you, all these cases were non-consensual. Basically, men raping other men or raping children, defilement. Those are the unnatural offenses we have in this country. There's been no single conviction, and I did the research, in Uganda of anyone for consensual same-sex relations with a full trial. That has not happened. For the 100 years, this law has existed on the law books. If you have not convicted anyone, why are you legislating further? What's happening? And where is the problem? Again, the crimes report, 2022. The police says they had 8,960 cases of defilement. That's defilement of girls by men. And also they had 3,620 cases of aggravated defilement. Defilement of all aggravating factors. So 896, or this time around is about 11,000 versus 83 cases. Where is the problem about our children and sex? Is that homosexuality or is this heterosexuality? For in this case, if we are saying homosexuality, then the opposite is heterosexuality. So we should criminalize heterosexuality in Uganda. It's a problem. They are parading so-called ex-gays. Do you know the ex-gays? These are people that they have become anti-gay. I was once gay, now I'm anti-gay. They have no background about these people. You are dealing with criminals, honorable. People that have been convicted. Elisha is a convicted criminal. Check his records. You are the state. You are trusting that person over me, a lawyer like you. And you are trusting his evidence over me. And if he has evidence of recruitment, why hasn't anyone been convicted based on his evidence? It has been everywhere. Why is there no evidence of conviction? Why don't we have this conviction done? Now, unconstitutionality, that's what basically I think is more important. Why this is unconstitutional. Article 20, and there was asked a question about inherent rights. Are rights given by the state or are rights inherent? Article 20 of the Constitution provides that human rights are not granted by. Thank you very much. Article 45 says that all other rights, including those not recognized, not written down in the Constitution, are also human rights. Now, which human rights are we talking about? Homosexuals, just like everyone else in this country, has exactly the same rights just like everyone else. As simple as that. And Honorable Basalirwa put it very well, that everyone, heterosexuals have to be treated the same way as homosexuals. As simple as that. And that's the principle of non-discrimination. Now, Article 21, which also they forgot to read, Article 21:1, basically says everyone has the right to equality and freedom from discrimination. Basically says everyone is equal before and under the law. As simple as that. They prefer Article 21:3 because it enumerates grounds of discrimination. Now, I'll mention the grounds. He mentioned sex. I'll also mention sex. Does sex include sexual orientation or not? Now, Tunen versus Australia, it tells us there's no instrument in Uganda that has been ratified by Uganda that basically protects sexual orientation. The case of Tunen versus Australia is a 1993 case by the Human Rights Committee. The Human Rights Committee of the UN interprets the ICCPR, and it says that basically LGBT people, sexual orientation is protected as part of sex. So yes, Honorable, there is. Now, if you treat LGBT people separate, differently from heterosexuals, then you are discriminating, essentially. Article 23, the right to liberty. Article 23, the right to liberty, that you should only arrest me upon reasonable suspicion of someone having committed a criminal offense. I've told you 83 cases of unnatural offenses. And I can bet you almost none of those cases is essentially consensual same-sex relations. So where does Honorable Basalirwa expect to get evidence of consensual same-sex relations where the police has failed for 100 years? How are you going to identify who is gay and who is not? Who is gay in this room? As you've seen, there are no gay people. So who are you criminalizing? There are no gay people in the world. They don't exist. And I'm coming to enforcement now. How does the police enforce? Because every single day, even right now, our lawyers are in the field, respond to cases of arrest of LGBT people. How do they get arrested? Because they look gay. How do you look gay? What is looking gay? The police knows. The police has a gay tester. They know how you look gay. And they arrest you for looking gay, for walking gay, for talking gay. But they can never prove this against you because the offense is basically about penetration. And if we are penetrating each other consensually, you're not going to say complainant. If you have a victimless offense, why do you need to criminalize a victimless offense? No one is complaining. There's no harm. Criminalize based on the harm principle. What are you criminalizing? Harm to who? To Honorable Basalirwa. And in the case of Victor Juliet Mukasa versus Tunejeno in 2008, the High Court of Uganda essentially said you cannot arrest people just because they are gay, even for their own protection. That's the High Court. I'm not a High Court judge. So the right to liberty is going to be violated every single time because people are going to be arrested without any reasonable suspicion. The right to dignity, non-derogable, Honorable Basalirwa, this time around. You are touching a non-derogable one. The right to dignity, my dignity as an individual, my dignity as a human being. The Court of Appeal of Botswana has just decided a case where it decriminalized homosexuality on the basis of dignity. Like if you criminalize LGBT people, if you criminalize homosexuality, then essentially you are taking away the dignity of a group of persons, simply based on who they are. The Court of Botswana is not in Europe. Botswana is not in America. Botswana is in Africa. And this is in 2019. The right to privacy. I wonder how Honorable Basalirwa would feel if the police enforces this law by checking everyone's bedroom, including his own, to tell that I'm having gay sex and he's not. How much do we love this? How much do we want people to interfere with our privacy just because we're enforcing criminal laws? What is this going to mean for the collective privacy of this country? And then I'm going to address Article 31.2a because these parliamentarians love it so much. Article 31.2a, for those who don't know it, is the article that basically prohibits same-sex marriages. Uganda is the first constitution in the world to prohibit things in constitutions. And it prohibits same-sex marriages in the constitution. I argued with the mover of this amendment. This was under the Kisanja amendment in 2005. And the mover, Honorable Katutu, was telling me that, you know what, I moved this, so I know what it means. I told him, no, we don't need you in court to interpret this. The law speaks for itself. What does the law say? The law says that same-sex marriages are prohibited. How does that take away my right to dignity, to privacy, freedom of association? Right? Guys, am I forgetting something about human rights or whatever? How does the prohibition of marriage take away my right to dignity? How does it take away my humanity? Is that even a limitation to rights? So let us say maybe that human rights, that this right is, the right to marriage is taken away, which also is not true, because the spirit of Article 31A, as Article 131 blah blah amended, basically is against the spirit of the Constitution. In other words, the constitutional provision is actually unconstitutional, and we shall make that argument soon. Now that is on criminalization of consensual adult same-sex relations. We all agree, when it comes to children, when it comes to rape, when it comes to no consent, that's a no-go area. Everyone has to consent to sex. Children cannot consent. You can't have sex with children. As simple as that. So we're not talking about children. We're not talking about non-consenting adults. We're talking about consensual sexual relations among adults. That's the point. It's nothing to do with children or whatever. There are enough laws to protect children in this country that already exists. The Children's Act exists. The Penal Code exists. Children are overly protected, so that predators are not being arrested when they abuse our children. All right. I'm going to move to the second strand of my argument, which is criminalization of promotion of homosexuality. I'm very much interested in this because this is my work now. Criminalization of my work. Time. How many minutes? Okay. She says 1 minute to summarize. criminalization of promotion of homosexuality. What is promotion of homosexuality? The law that was passed yesterday essentially, like I told you, criminalizes everything that I'm doing right now. Everything that a lawyer would do in terms of protecting LGBTI people. So it says operating an organization which promotes or encourages homosexuality or observance or normalization. What is promoting homosexuality or observance of homosexuality or normalization? Is that what I'm doing normalization? What does it exactly criminalize? And this goes contrary to the principle of legality in Article 28:12 of the Constitution. Finally, the spirit of the law is unconstitutional. The law as it was passed. The mob justice that was seen in Parliament is basically, essentially makes the law unconstitutional. The way it was passed, the speaker vowing that, you know what, this law is going to pass by all means, regardless of what you say. And also, the way the public hearings were conducted by the committee in 1 week, despite the 45 days given by the rules of procedure. The whole spirit, the way it was in Parliament yesterday, how everyone was moving, that discussions, the homophobia exhibited, all this goes contrary to the Constitution. What's my authority for this? In the case of Adrian Jjuuko versus Attorney General, I'm that Adrian, which is a 2016 case. The Constitutional Court of Uganda decided that Parliament cannot pass a law that regards particular groups of people as misfits in society. Basically, the Equal Opportunities Commission Act had a provision stopping homosexuals and the like from accessing the Equal Opportunities Commission. And the Constitutional Court said you cannot pass such a law because of the right to a fair hearing, the right to a fair trial. As simple as that, you cannot pass a law that in this spirit is basically about persecution of a particular group of individuals. I'm going to quote from that case, as I conclude, that in a society governed by the rule of law and according to human rights principles, steps to protect the public from potential future harm, no matter how potentially serious it may be, should take place within a framework which also protects the human rights of the individual whom it's feared may be capable of doing such harm. That's the Constitutional Court of Uganda. It interprets the Constitution for us. So, Honorable, you cannot actually pass the law that you passed, and your law will certainly be declared unconstitutional. And in terms of religion, Uganda is a secular. Honorable, 10 minutes of reply before opening up the plenary. He's going to make a response. Right, let them first. Let there be some responses. Around 5 comments. Leave that exactly. Response from you. Around 5 people. Let's leave it around 2. So around 5 people.
Let me pass. Okay. Thank you very much. We want to also hear from our audience. I know online there are very many. I think we've reached over 200 people online. Those who are online, if you can, please put in your questions online. We may pick a few, 1 or 2, that we can ask here. But also we want to start with our audience first. We are sticking to 5 people. And I'll start first and foremost with the seniors. I see the most senior person I see putting up their hands.
Honorable Basalirwa, Honorable Asuman Basalirwa, people don't fight there. This is a debate. Honorable Basalirwa, Dr. Adrian Jjuuko, Dr. Businje Kabumba, the moderator here, my colleagues, ladies and gentlemen, I know what has been painted out here, School of Law, especially when my colleague, Professor Tamale and Businje Kabumba and others went to Parliament, is that the School of Law is homogeneous in terms of viewing homosexuality. I want to start by saying that when we talk about law, law is not only man-made law. Under the concept of legal pluralism, we also have what we call natural or divine law. I will start with the man-made law briefly, just give me some 2 minutes, because these things need to come out with this, especially these young people. Man-made law, the starting point is the Constitution. We can try to turn it around, but the Article 31 that has been talked about explicitly outlaws marriage between persons of the same sex. It is not therefore correct to say that Uganda is the only constitution that has prohibitions. Indeed, the 2010 Kenyan Constitution, for example, in respect of abortion, it prohibits abortion, although it has some few exceptions. So this can be a starting point. And what Honorable Basalirwa is trying to do, among others, is to have clarity on some of these, because the Constitution cannot legislate for everything. It cannot. Penal Code Section 145 talks about criminalizing having carnal knowledge against the order of nature. In my view, it is too narrow, because it talks only about sodomy, and yet homosexuality, as we know it, is broader. I am talking from experience, because my grandchild, I'm about to finish, don't worry. My grandchild in primary 3 has shown me materials which are got from books they have, and I'm so disturbed about it. So, the Ugandan law, the sexual law, outlaws sodomy, outlaws sex for persons of the same sex. That is Ugandan law. There's what we call natural law or divine law, or you can call it religious law. The Bible, to which I subscribe as a practicing Christian, clearly outlaws homosexuality. And the punishment is so strong as what happened to people of Sodom and Gomorrah. St. Paul tells us clearly to flee from homosexuality. Both the Quran and the Hadith are very clear and so strong on homosexuality. What's the conclusion? And finally, as part of legal pluralism, customary laws, values, aspirations, and practices are part of the law. And as I conclude, to reiterate what Honorable Basalirwa was saying, there is no treaty, hard law, okay, that provides for sexual orientation as a ground. It's not there. And Article 21, you can talk about social standing. Flavia, how are you from Hirpa? I am now, you see, I accepted Jesus as Lord and Savior. And as we learn in Corinthians, the old has gone and the new has come. We must. Yes, this is extremely important. As we talk about homosexuality and other sexual ills, we should recognize, as I conclude, that law moves beyond the secular and includes the divine to which we belong, some of us. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah. Please, you have 1 minute.
Okay. Thank you so much. John Solomon Nabuyanda. I'm a human rights defender. One, to begin with, I want to respond to Professor Shoki. He cannot subject us to his religious affiliation, pursuant to Article 7 of the Constitution of the Republic of Uganda. Secondly, I want to move in the same direction as Dr. Jjuuko earlier on advanced an argument there. That one, there is no testimeter for telling who is gay, or who is a homosexual, or who is transgender, or who is queer. And one, I would also love to establish the fact that we are in a broken criminal justice system. Grace Ibingira was a minister who moved the detention ordinances. Amama Mbabazi moved the same law Pomba. So in such a system, it means that what is affecting the LGBTQI community, this law is not only going to be suffered by the LGBTQI community in Uganda, but even the non-LGBTQI community. Because tomorrow, you can wake up as Honorable Basalirwa, government is interested in Bujiri, your seat, and here we are making headlines in the news, Basalirwa, the homosexual. So to me, I think because some of these things, and also I want to differ from what Professor Shoki earlier on said, because same-sex marriages, his argument on same-sex marriages is not a justification for this, because this has already been provided for under the Marriage Act.
Okay, please, please conclude.
Under the Marriage Act. And the question is on the enforcement. Therefore, to me, I think we need to appreciate the fact that homosexuality or LGBTQI is something that has been with us since ages, and we need to learn to coexist. Thank you.
All right, I'm going to take one more person. One more person.
Thank you so much, Mr. MC. I just want to start by joining my voice to that of...
Please, you have 1 minute.
Yes, definitely. Dr. Kabumba, Honorable Basalirwa, who is my MP because I hail from Bugiri. I'm in his constituency. Dr. Jjuuko, less than 15 years, we were seated where most of you are sitting. He was my classmate, my real contemporary. And I want to add that he was the best student we had in our lot during my time. One thing they have not spoken about Basalirwa is he was a guild president in this university from 2000 to 2001. I think I just wanted to add that. I only have 2 or 3 points I'll make in the 1 minute I've been given. We were here in 2009 when David Bahati brought the first anti-homosexuality bill. We were in this same room. I sat at the back. I had just graduated my law school. I was going to the Law Development Center at the time. I came with Engineer Langa. Engineer Langa was heading the Family Life Network. I don't know if he's still there. I don't know if he has been invited. And we had a very robust debate on the first anti-homosexuality bill. A very robust debate. And thankfully, by that time, the debate had not yet been settled. So the bill had not been passed at that time. Right now, the bill has been passed. So whether we say we are for or against, the die has already been cast. But at that time, we had a very robust, I think Pastor Martin Sempa was around, and then Professor Tamale was on the other side. And we had a robust debate. The question I'm asking my brother, Honorable Basalirwa, aren't we going to go through the same challenge where the bill is passed and then foreign interests come and roll over what we have done? There is a gentleman called Daniel Hall. I invite all of you who are at the law school to read the paper he has written on the genesis of the homosexuality bill, why it did not pass the first time. I'm going to leave it with with Dr. Kabumba. so that you share it with the audience to see what exactly happened. It is not whether you are for or against the bill that is going to decide our fate. Our fate as Africans is being decided by foreign interests. And if you're in law school, I want you to pay attention. Africans, do we control our own destiny? Or is our history being written for us? Will our history be written by us, as Barack Obama says, or will it be written for us? That is something very vital which I want us to discuss. Lastly, is on the issue of this being a secular,
Please.
just my last point, on the issue of this being a secular country. Secularism refers to the governance model. You can't govern this country with a particular religion. But secularism doesn't mean the country is devoid of God. You need to draw that distinction. And I would like Dr. Jjuuko, if he really thinks that secularism means the country is devoid of God, tomorrow to bring a constitutional petition for us to remove our national motto, for God and my country. Bring that constitutional petition. And you see if it will pass. So I have many other views, but because of time, that is what I will say. We are going to take our time. We are going to deliberate the bill. But at the end of the day, and you can see the state is already shaking in its boots. The Attorney General is running away from the bill. The Director of Public Prosecution is running away from the bill. I thank you.
Yes, the debate is not going to continue, but Honorable, I think, has other engagements. But I'm going to give him a chance to respond. Online, we don't have people, but online, maybe a few questions have been sent to me. And just one person has sent me and asked that, Honorable, you talked about protecting children, and someone has cited the Children's Act, which has a provision on sexual exploitation. So the person says, why not enforce this law and get those people who are exploiting the children?
Okay, first of all, I want to agree with Professor Kabumba on another date for this debate. You let me know so that we come back, okay? When I am not hard pressed with time. So maybe by the end of today's debate or dialogue, we shall have agreed on when to come back and what time. Because I feel a lot of pain that I have to leave. And somebody can easily think I'm intellectually evasive or artistically foxy, which is really not the case. So I want to request that you bring me back with my good friend, Dr. Adrian, whether you bring Professor Sylvia Tamale or who, I am ready. Number two, I want to thank Dr. Jjuuko for the civility in the debate. You know, sometimes I usually tell my colleagues in the media, and it's taken for pride, but it's not. There are people I will never debate with on radio and TV as a matter of principle. So you call me, ask who is there. In fact, I even asked Dr. Kabumba. I can't just drag myself into a trench and, a gutter. No. So I want to thank you. Very educative adumbrration from his side. I have learned. As I said, I have come to learn. Not that my head is empty, but because education is the continuous discovery of ignorance. The more you get educated, the more you discover you're ignorant. So I am glad that I've been able to pick a few issues, especially where our arguments are punctuated with the case law and statute that distinguishes us from pedestrians, ordinary people on the street. And that's where I want our argument to go. Avoid pedestrian arguments as lawyers. Now let me make 3 brief comments. Number 1, we should never confuse legislation with implementation. The two are different and the two are done by different entities. If we went that path, you'll never legislate. So what is the constitutional obligation of a legislature? Article 79, make the law. Once you have made the law, you and me have now to mandate another agency, which is the executive, to ensure that the laws are in place. Because the other day somebody was asking me, now you Basalirwa, you're talking about homosexuals. When they are arrested and imprisoned, they will be with fellow men. Won't they? Therefore, your law is fake. I said, now this one has a problem. We have a Prisons Act. And there is that line completely. Because you see, if you begin making, it's this similar to what this one is asking. Okay? Part of the problem we have, and in Parliament, I'm going to take them on, police. That's part of the problem. Every year we increase the budget of police. I have been a member of the Defense and Internal Affairs Committee. I have been a member. And we increase their budget every year, ever since I came to Parliament. Now, part of the problem we are seeing in the implementation, you're complaining about this, that is there. We will take them on at an appropriate time. So, never confuse legislation with implementation of legislation. Let everybody do what is within their constitutional orbit or space. Because the legislature will not do the work of the executive. Otherwise, you will create an administrative thrombosis. Yes. So, when you invite us here next time, invite the Minister for Internal Affairs and we ask him, me and you, we ask him, why police is underperforming, why, there's child abuse and the others that you are talking about. We will ask them, me and you, because I also have the same question. But that does stop me from legislation? Obviously no. Obviously no. Secondly, let me also correct one impression. That this community, the gay community, enjoy rights like all of us. The impression being created out there that this is a community that has been denied all forms of rights. That's the impression. They vote like us. Yes. They are entitled to education like us. And nobody is going to deny them those rights on account of this. So, anybody, no. Give whoever wants a microphone to come. Yeah, so that we avoid this heckling like we are in Chikubo. So the point I am making is that these guys, we enjoy rights like any other citizen's rights. They do. So nobody should begin creating an impression that, oh, you see, this is one category whose rights have been denied. It's not true. Third is for us to focus on the provisions of the bill. Now, I have seen again many misrepresentations, and they are deliberate. That you see, coming here and talking what we are talking, we are offending the law. A very deliberate misrepresentation. Very deliberate. To try and vulgarize the bill. We will defend it. And we will not be shy to defend it. Because it's our conscience. So that is not in the bill. It's a point I am making. What has been said here is not in the bill. And I have it there. So, anybody who will try to misrepresent what is in the bill, we will find space and address it. Finally, when you look at what we generally refer to as lawmaking, and again, let me correct this impression. Parliament can make any law except in 4 instances. 4. Number 1, you cannot make a law under our constitution adopting a state religion. Isn't it? Number 2, you cannot make a law making Uganda a one-party state. Isn't that what the constitution says? Number 3, you cannot make a law with a retrospective effect. Again, that's what the constitution says. Number 4, you cannot make a law as a private member that has financial implications. You cannot move a bill as a private member. Those are the only 4 limitations. Outside that, Parliament can make any law. I thought I would also put that both in text and context so that we move together. Finally, let the debate continue. You see, because there are processes between now and the time when the bill will be assented to. My brother Dick Mukuve here, I'm not going to speak for the international, pressure and the like. Let them be there. Okay? David Bahati was telling me the problems he faced when he moved this bill. Even at one time he reached the airport in the US and he was forced back on the plane. Then again, in one of the instances, they were denied a hotel. And what they did was to remove his name because they were doing a hotel booking. And they removed his name for the MPs to be able to get other booking. But he's there, and he has even been he mentioned them at that time. So, in terms of intolerance, who is more intolerant? Do you know what my colleagues have been telling me in the corridors? Forget going to the US, forget going to Canada, you forget going to the UK. You just forget. Well, I will continue to apply for visas. I will continue to apply for them. If they say no, I will take it in good faith because it is their country and it is their right. They have a right to determine who goes to their country. And me, I will not begrudge them. I will not feel offended if I am denied a visa to go to the US. I will not. It is their right. It is their country. And it is their laws. That's why I respect it. And I respected them. Can they also respect us? It must be reciprocal. So for me, I will not begrudge them if I am given, is it visa? They call them what? Visa, ban or travel ban. I will not. And I will not complain about it. I will not. You will not hear me anywhere saying, how can these people deny me a visa? No. Because in any case, I have been denied visas before, even before this bill. I remember when I was a student here, I was going to Stockholm. They denied me a visa. I was a student, I was guild president, the vice chancellor wrote everybody. Since then, so now, yes, what had I done? What offense had I committed? So, I think what we need to do is really mutual respect. Mutual respect, civility, understanding of each other. This is what I call of you. This is what I invite of you. Even as students in the process of your debate, please respect each other. Be courteous to each other. Agree to disagree, disagree to agree in a very courteous manner. I think we have given an example. Me and Dr. Jjuuko. We've given an example. That's what we want to hear from you, even on your social media platforms. But I want to end on this note, get information. Get what? It is very bad to display ignorance in public. It is very bad. So whatever you want to do or whatever you want to say, please get what? Have you agreed on the date we are coming back? Okay. For God and my country, God bless you all.
Thank you very much, Honorable. We hope to see you next time at Makerere University again. Dr. Adrian Jjuuko, I think you heard Professor Ben, your former lecturer, I'm sure. Please give us some responses because to what he said.
Well, it's interesting. Some of the responses that I've had. And I think that's why we came here, to discuss and debate. So it's a health space for us to discuss and debate. Professor Bentu Mugisha, unfortunately, is not here. He's not here. I do respect his views about man-made law, but when I was studying jurisprudence, and we had a convention around natural law and positive law, you know how that convention goes. Positive law, natural law, which one overrides? Many people believe that natural law overrides positive law. But in a constitutional democracy, unfortunately, what overrides is the Constitution. If you read Article 2 of the Constitution is the supreme law of this country, and no any other law, culture, or practice overrides the Constitution. It's as simple as that. You can quote the Bible all you want, but the Bible is not going to trump the Constitution, at least not in the courts of law. At least not. So when you're making a law, you don't make a law based on the Bible. And that's what also is the import of Article 7, that Uganda shall not adopt a state religion. There's a reason why that was said so. And also if we talk of religion, whose religion are we going to adopt as the basis of this law? Uganda is a plural nation, as he said again, pluralism. If Uganda is pluralistic, then whose religion are we taking? Christianity, Islam, African traditional religions? What is the view of African traditional religions on homosexuality? Who knows? What do we, the Basamize, take as our view on homosexuality? Does anyone know? So when we talk of religion, whose religion are we basically adopting? And by the way, for the Bible people, I've been reading Leviticus. You know, Leviticus is quoted usually out of context. We pick and choose what to do in Leviticus. And they pick the provision about homosexuality. But Leviticus criminalizes so many things that you'll be very surprised. And yet we continue to do them as Christians. There's a provision in the Bible which is punishable by death, which is new brides who cannot prove their virginity. How many have we killed so far for not proving their virginity? Preaching a different God would even catch Asuman Basalirwa. I think he's preaching another God.